Imagine a courtroom drama, but the defendant isn't a human, fresh from a heinous crime, but a rat, a pig, or even a swarm of insects. Sounds like a scene out of a twisted fairy tale, doesn't it? Well, what if I told you that for centuries, this was a very real, very bizarre facet of our justice system? Prepare to step back in time to an era where animals were not just prosecuted for their supposed misdeeds, but often found guilty and punished with the full, absurd gravity of the law. To truly grasp this bewildering historical practice, we need to set the scene. We're talking about the Middle Ages and the early modern period, roughly from the 13th to the 18th century, primarily across Europe. This wasn't some isolated backward custom in one remote village. Historians have documented hundreds of these animal trials, spanning France, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and beyond. These weren't whispered rumors or folk tales. They were official legal proceedings, carefully recorded in court documents, complete with summons, lawyers, witnesses, and judgments. These were societies steeped in a deep, often literal interpretation of religious texts, where the line between the natural and the supernatural was blurred, and the spiritual was intricately woven into the fabric of daily life. Animals, in this worldview, were not merely biological entities. They were often seen as agents, sometimes even tools of the devil, capable of deliberate malice, or at the very least, subject to human law and divine judgment. A pig that killed a child wasn't just an animal acting on instinct. It was a creature that had committed murder. A swarm of locusts wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a plague, perhaps a punishment, and certainly something that could be addressed through legal and ecclesiastical means. This era was characterized by a profound lack of scientific understanding, where superstition and a strict hierarchical view of the universe dominated. In this framework, even a beetle could be deemed a transgressor. The legal systems themselves, while seemingly absurd to us today, were designed to restore order, placate a fearful populace, and uphold a moral code that extended, incredibly, to the animal kingdom. Understanding this context is crucial, because without it, these trials seem like nothing short of collective delusion. But they were, in their own twisted way, a logical extension of the societal beliefs of the time. But things took a truly bizarre turn with the specific cases themselves. Consider the now infamous execution of a pig in Falaise, France, in 1386. The charges? Murder. The victim? An infant. The pig was not merely put down, it was arrested, imprisoned, and brought to trial. Dressed in human clothes, it was led to the gallows, where it was publicly executed, its snout mutilated to symbolize its alleged brutality. Such was the seriousness of the crime, and the gravity with which these proceedings were treated. This wasn't an isolated incident. There are countless records of pigs, often sows, due to their proximity to human dwellings and infants, being tried and executed for similar offenses across Europe. Then there's the truly surreal realm of invertebrate trials. In the 16th century, Switzerland saw not just individual animals, but entire swarms brought before ecclesiastical courts. One of the most surreal cases took place in Switzerland in the late 15th century. In 1474, a rooster was brought before a court in the city of Basel after it was discovered to have laid an egg, an event considered deeply unnatural at the time. According to the beliefs of the era, such an occurrence was seen as ominous, associated with dark forces, and feared as a threat to the natural order. Rather than dismissing the event as a biological anomaly, authorities treated it as a serious matter of law and morality. The animal was formally judged, and the case was recorded alongside other legal proceedings of the period. This trial reflects how deeply superstition and religious fear shaped medieval justice, where even rare natural phenomena were interpreted through a lens of moral transgression and divine punishment. Decades later, a prosecutor in Autumn, France, in 1587, formally summoned a colony of rats to appear in court, accusing them of destroying barley crops. When the rats predictably failed to appear, their lawyer, the illustrious Bartholomew Chassenet, a real lawyer, mind you, argued that they deserved a fair trial, and that they couldn't attend due to the danger posed by the cats of the district. The court astonishingly accepted this defense, postponing the case. Chassenet even argued that the summons was insufficient because it hadn't been delivered to every single rat. These cases weren't just about punishment, they were about imposing order, even on nature, and about understanding divine will. When a community was ravaged by pests, it wasn't just bad luck, it was a moral failing, a breach in the natural order that required legal and often spiritual intervention. The layers of the absurd piled higher and higher, yet the meticulousness of the legal process remained unwavering, adding to the chilling and fascinating nature of these historical footnotes. What they discovered next, or rather what the process entailed, truly changed everything we thought we knew about justice. The details of these trials are what make them so profoundly unsettling and captivating. When an animal was implicated in a crime, the legal process began much like it would for a human. A formal complaint would be lodged, investigations conducted, and, incredibly, a summons issued. For individual animals like a pig or a bull, they would be formally arrested and held in a prison. For collective pests like locusts, snails, or weevils, a summons would be read aloud at the affected fields or even at crossroads, demanding their appearance in court. And here's where it gets truly mind-bending. The animals, even insects, were often assigned legal representation. Yes, lawyers, trained in jurisprudence, would argue on behalf of these non-human defendants. They would cite precedents, challenge evidence, and even construct elaborate defenses, much like Chassenet's defense of the rats, arguing for mercy or for legal technicalities. These legal battles sometimes lasted for weeks or even months, costing the communities a substantial amount of money and resources. When a verdict was reached, often by a human jury or a judge, the consequences were severe. Pigs, cattle, and donkeys found guilty of homicide or bestiality, a surprisingly common charge, would face the gallows, sometimes dressed in human clothing, their bodies mutilated before being publicly hanged or burned. The executions were often public spectacles meant to serve as a warning, not just to other animals, but to the human populace of the consequences of lawlessness, even by proxy through their livestock. For pests, the sentence might be excommunication, banishment from the parish, or a formal curse of destruction. Priests would perform elaborate rituals, using holy water and incantations to drive them away, sometimes even stipulating specific areas outside the community where the pests were permitted to reside. The solemnity of these proceedings, the intricate legal arguments, the public pronouncements of guilt, and the gruesome theatrical executions or ceremonial banishments stand in stark contrast to our modern understanding of legal responsibility and the nature of animals. It's a chilling reminder of a worldview so alien, yet so thoroughly documented, that it forces us to reevaluate the very definition of justice and who or what it applies to. To this day, we may never fully comprehend the complex tapestry of beliefs and fears that led entire societies to enact such bizarre, yet undeniably earnest, trials against animals. Was it a primitive form of justice, an attempt to bring order to a chaotic world? Was it a reflection of deep-seated anthropomorphism, attributing human intent and culpability to creatures acting on instinct? Or was it, as some argue, a way to displace human guilt, projecting societal failings onto non-human scapegoats? Perhaps it was a combination of all these factors, alongside a profound intertwining of religious dogma, nascent legal frameworks, and a pre-scientific understanding of the natural world. These animal trials remind us that our concepts of justice, morality, and even personhood are not static. They evolve, sometimes dramatically, across centuries. They also serve as a fascinating, albeit disturbing, historical oddity that challenges our assumptions about rationality and the human-animal divide. Though the direct practice has long faded, echoes of this historical approach can be seen in modern discussions about animal rights, legal standing for animals, and the varying ways different cultures assign value and responsibility to the animal kingdom. If you want more mysteries like this, the next video will uncover the dark truth of children being dosed with opium in 19th century Britain.